I'm still thinking about determination and free will, or determinism and free will I should say, and still trying to think through the implications and the blocks that I have in in either regard, in either committing my thoughts to the idea that it's all determined, or vice versa, committing myself to the idea that there is this controller, or at least steering device called the will. I mean, one of the difficulties I have, and it's a psychological difficulty, it's not a logical difficulty, is in terms of determinism, it's detail. That's where the illusion of control is most absolute. Because if there is nothing such thing as free will, and I've serious reservations that there might not be, I think there probably isn't in the way that we understand it. I think this whole idea of will is probably an artifact of a small brain in a big world, or a three-dimensional brain in a five-dimensional world, or an analog brain in a digital world, or whatever it is. There's some kind of mismatch going on. It's throwing up shadows and wire patterns, and one of those shadows and wire patterns, I believe, which might be emergent, or how we want to think about it, is the will. That's kind of how I'm imagining it. Or broadly speaking, a kind of illusion of control. You know what I mean? We feel we're in control of our lives. And sometimes we find out later that we weren't. We were being manipulated, or sometimes those kind of things can kick in. But this strong sense of being in the driving seat of our own lives, to a greater or lesser extent, is very large. And I think for me at least, one of the things that is most convincing about that, or it makes it most difficult to apply skepticism to that, isn't the big things. Isn't the fact that that here I am, middle-aged man, married, doing a job. It's not the big stuff, because I probably could have predicted that. It's the detailed stuff. It's the movement of my little finger across the back of this camera. It's that kind of thing. It's it's this stupid hat I'm wearing. Why am I wearing a hat that says Mountain Dew on it? I've never even tasted Mountain Dew, and I consciously resist buying clothes that have got logos on them, so I don't know why. It's that kind of stupid thing, really. Or the small pauses that I'm making, and I speak not the general sentence. I can almost imagine that whole sentence that I'm speaking now being determined by, I don't know how, but I can imagine it. My word, the physics and the ecology of the world rolling through me and propelling a meaning out. I can kind of easily imagine that. But the details of the pauses and the ruminations and the little bits of things that's going on in the cracks of that, it's that stuff that's much harder to understand and feel determinedly about, or feel deterministic about, if you know what I mean. Well, this thing, I just picked this up from the ground. You know what I mean? It's just a stick and someone sharpened the end of it like that. That stick. People do all that kind of stuff around here. Like, I'll just show you again. It's this weird little clearing in the woods where people build shit. But someone's gone out, just taken a thing and sharpened that. And it's that kind of weird detail. How they did it, how they threw it at this particular place in the woods. It's that kind of detail that's gobsmacking. I mean, I know it's a failure of my ability to imagine complexity, and I think it's just another limitation. Yeah, and shops. Shops are full of shit, aren't they? Really. I read somewhere that hunter-gatherer tribes have got about an average of 300 possess an average of 300 different objects. That's how many different amounts of stuff they have. 300. I've got drawers at home that have got more than 300 different things in. And it's the complexity of that kind of stuff, and shop windows, and Argos catalogues full of weird little crap that you just kind of flick through and decide whether you want to buy or not, and whether you want it in blue or whether you want it in green. It's that kind of minutiae which baffles my ability to see the ball of physics rolling through the world. You know what I mean? There's too many tiny little balls. I wish there was a smaller number of balls in the world.